Alright guys, can you hear me? Should be able to hear me, guys. Can anybody hear me? Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me? If you can't hear me when I'm speaking now. Oh, so you can hear me, yeah? Oh, cool. Alright, sweet. Let's get cracking then. Alright, sweet. So minimize that. Morning, guys, or afternoon, or evening, depending on where you are in the world. As always, I'm on a Mac, so if anybody's typing questions in the YouTube chat area, I won't be able to see it until I have made other arrangements. I might just get a screen just to add to the Mac when I'm doing live sessions, but we'll see. We'll see. So yesterday we had some very good market price or market action. You know, price was doing its thing, and a lot of the areas that we've been marking out for a while, and price levels have come very close to being hit. One being the dollar here at 90.50, give or take, and we had a really nice push up yesterday. Just fell shy of the dollar index. Just fell shy of the level that we've been looking for. It obviously looks like it's going to punch through today. I can't see this not doing it today. I mean, if it retraces this at this point, I'd be very, very surprised. But once it goes through this is the next area where I would be expecting price to at least try and reach in for. If there's a couple of things that could happen here, a couple of scenarios, okay. And at this point, because a lot of the movement happened yesterday, there's no reason why it won't continue today. But The reason why I'm a little bit apprehensive is because on some of the other pairs, their levels are almost hit, and you can see where there's going to be some levels where once price goes through those levels, there's no real reason for it to continue going, and maybe steady off a little bit. So I guess the easy way of saying it would be the dollar index, may create a high of the week on Wednesday today, with the foreign currencies creating low of the weeks. We'll see. But once it goes through this, then the reaction through this is what I'm going to be watching, or going to be waiting for, because a lot of the range has already been fulfilled. So unless we have some insane day, another sort of 106 pips or so, which is unlikely in my opinion, then it's likely we might pop through this and maybe reject a little bit, come back into the range, or the other scenario would be, a very small pop through, just pokes its head up there and then just completely reverses and challenges this low here, which again I wouldn't expect. I think, just based on the way that price is looking and the way it's been acting, because you've had a couple of like Monday was a bit muted. You can see it came down, rejected a little bit, and then we have this really nice push yesterday on Tuesday. So it is possible we get a run, like a decent run. We've got some news coming out this afternoon as well on the pound and for CAD. So that could very well do that. There's also some news coming out for the euro at 10 o'clock GMT, which I think is going to be around about 5 o'clock New York time. So that's something to be aware of as well. So for now, I don't want to go over the top with marking my charts. If you guys are getting used to the way that I mark up my charts, you'll notice that I don't really put too much on there. I try to just keep things really simple. And as less clutter as possible, because the less that I've got on my charts, the better. I just want a couple of levels where price could potentially be reaching for, and that's it. I don't really want to go, it could go here and then, the middle of this candle and then the top of this candle. And then, you just kind of need to know the general direction, because when you open a trade, you're opening the trade to make money. You're not opening the trade to be right, so simple is best. Simple is best. Let me just pop over to the weekly for a second. Just want to see something. Yeah, you see, we came down into this area, which we've marked this out a few times over the last few weeks, and we literally came right into this area, consolidating a little bit. Now we're getting that little bit more follow through. If we do clear this, there's also another weekly level up here, which may be the same. 90, 97, so let's just call it 91 big figure, as the level I've just marked out on the daily. No, it's not. So this is the first level. This is the weekly level here, where if price goes up, it could potentially stop, which is effectively an old low, really. Let me just change the color of this. We'll just, make it blue. Makes it a little bit more definable. So this is the weekly level, which price could potentially bump its head up against and reject from. So there's a little bit of range there. And then obviously we've got the secondary level up here, which is this area of consolidation, which we'll mark out as well, just to keep things simple. And on our charts, so we are aware of it. This is more of a visual aid, really, just to kind of get your eyes to go straight to the area where it could potentially be going. But here first, old low, weekly old low, and then this area of consolidation. But I can't imagine it's going to rip right through there unless we have some pretty insane price action today. So that's the dollar. And what does all of this tell us? Yeah, it tells us basically that we could, map out. What I like to do is I like to map out a couple of scenarios in my head, so I'm not surprised when it happens or doesn't happen. So in this case, I'm looking for, and I'll zoom in one more as well, looking for a run through this these equal highs up here where we've marked out, at least to the weekly level. That's one scenario. Another scenario is it just rips and goes straight up to the secondary level. Another scenario would be it pops its head up and rejects, comes back into the overall range. And another scenario would be it runs a little bit higher, doesn't hit the weekly level, and then starts to fade back in a little bit. And the time of day helps with this. If this runs higher before the news during New York, which would be 1:30 GMT, so that's 8:30 New York time. If it runs up there before 8:30 New York time or 1:30 GMT, then it is very possible that the news may spike it higher and then drive it lower. So there's a lot of different scenarios. The one thing that we can say with a degree of certainty is that we're at least going to pop through this, yeah, which is the initial expectation. So this is one of those times where I personally use the foreign currencies to give me a clue as to what the dollar's potentially going to do, not the other way around, because generally we tend to look at the dollar index and say, well, this is the drawn price, this is what we think, this is that, and because of that, we're going to be looking at foreign currencies to do the following. Whereas today, because we're so close to taking out these equal highs and potentially running higher, there's quite a few different scenarios that could happen because we've been in this range for quite a while, and we're still in a bearish trend. We're still bearish on the dollar. So it's one of those indications or one of those times when I'm going to be looking at foreign currencies to kind of give me an idea as to whether or not my bullish bias or like short-term bullish bias on dollar is going to continue. What we got here? Sorry, I'm just checking my chat. So let's jump over to the euro. And a similar sort of thing. I mean, it's pretty much the inverse of the dollar, guys. It had this high that was swept. And I have to thicken them up because I can see it, but I just want to make it more visible for you guys, because when I put these markings on there, you can see that's how they turn up. So I like to just thicken them up a bit. So we had this previous high, came all the way down, back up. We tagged the high here, and then we started to retrace lower. Okay, now it was around about here, and even up here, to be honest. Once we went through and filled in this inefficiency here, we've been expecting this level to be hit for quite a while. I've had this marked up on my charts for a while, 122.05 to 122 big figure, which hasn't changed, and you can see we're almost there, to be honest. That's pretty small. Is that so small? Let me thicken this up a bit, guys, and then I'm going to go with 05 because I think it lines up better. Yeah. And the other thing I'll say as well, guys, just be mindful of my, not be mindful, sorry, just let me know, because I got a new pair of Bose headphones yesterday, and they've got noise cancellation on them. So for me personally, everything is really quiet. I can't hear anything, just the sound of my own voice a little bit and nothing else. So I have no idea what's going off around me at the minute because I've turned on the noise cancellation. So if the audio's a bit weird, just let me know in the chat room, and I'll take the headphones off and I'll use something else. But going back to the euro, old high, tagged, nice sort of retracement or fade through the inefficiency, keeps going, and then we had this 3 or 4 day sideways action. This is a Sunday candle, so I don't really count that. And then yesterday, some really nice price action that literally drove almost straight through this previous low. Okay, and again, I'm expecting this to get tagged today. If it does go through this with some real meaning, obviously the first level would be here, and all of these levels really should jump off the charts, even to somebody who's unlearned or doesn't really know, kind of what they're doing. They're going through the process of learning to trade right now, and so on and so on. These levels really are there's a, they're not difficult to see. What is what I'm getting at? I mean, obviously, just from here to here, that section of price action right there, all of this, there is literally, a 5-hour video that I could do and explain everything that's going off within this section here. You know what I mean? But you don't need to know all of that. To start with, what I'm getting at is these levels really, old highs, old lows, swing points, they're quite simple to see. You don't need to be learned to understand or to see a swing point, a high here, and so on. You could kind of train your eyes to see these levels. So if it goes through this, the next logical level that it could potentially be reaching for is down here, And what I like to say to people, I've been saying this quite frequently, is it doesn't matter why price is going down there, or going up there, or hitting these levels. It's not important. Understanding why can help, but it really doesn't make a difference as to whether or not you can trade and make money. What's important is understanding that when you study this stuff and you watch price go to these levels, when it hits these levels, make notes and keep a track and keep a log of the reactions at those levels and how many times it kind of drives for these big levels. Because when you do that, you learn to start to trust the analysis that you do. So for me, having a little pop through this, the average daily range for euro really is anywhere between 100 and 120 pips, can be top end. But between 80 and 100, generally, most days, you'll get out of euro at least. And we're already, say, 16 pips in. So today's range is very, very narrow. We've had quite a tight Asian range today, which is brilliant because this lends well to getting some decent volatility, as Frankfurt comes online and London Open comes online, or London comes online, should I say. So even at this point where we are right now, getting some decent range expansion, I mean, that's only 55 pips to that previous low. But going all the way down to the consolidation area, which is similar to what we've marked out on the dollar, but obviously inverse, talking about 150 pips. So maybe that's a little bit of a stretch for a normal ADR or average daily range for euro, but still could potentially go down there. 130, sorry. So the first level for me is going to be here, is what I'm going to be watching for today, and I'm going to watch price. I'm going to have a look at the lower time frame in a second on euro, because I'm going to see if I can find an entry or something to keep an eye on today for potential trade. But for now, the draw on price for me is through 122.05, and we may get like a 30 pip spike down, which will take us into this area, and then we'll see what happens when we get down here, if and when we get down here. But going down to the 4 hour quickly, I mean, pretty much, I'll have to zoom out one more. I mean, you can see the price is kind of fleshed out a little bit more here. Consolidation. Just going to mark up some consolidation areas. 1 second. So we had consolidation, and obviously we've come out of the consolidation. You can call this a breakdown, I guess, range expansion. We've gone through most of this consolidation. Just think of it like this: lots and lots of price action, efficiently traded, and we don't kind of eaten straight through all of this to get lower. That's kind of how a good way to look at it. And then we have this sort of broader range consolidation, which again, we could potentially be going through because you have liquidity on either side of these areas. Obviously the top end has been tagged, but there's a smaller section down here that could be that could have a nice little draw on price. As far as an entry is concerned, just take these off for a second. Zoom in a little bit. There's a couple of things. I would love for euro, obviously, to Just trying to think. No, I tell you what, let me go down to an hourly for a second. I mean, look, we're so close to this. It's probably going to go straight through that first, you know. We might get super, super lucky today. I doubt it. But if price, for whatever reason, comes up to this area, okay, so if for whatever reason, before this level is tagged 122.05, okay, or 122 big figure, or anything below that, before that's tagged, if price comes up to this area here, and we'll call it, and it's a good way away, to be honest. This, man, this would be very, very insane for price to come to 122 sort of 55 or so. If for whatever reason price comes up there before this is taken out, I'm shorting that immediately. I'm not even going to think straight away. But it's very unlikely that's going to happen, to be honest. We're probably just going to get a run straight through. And that's what makes this a little bit tricky as an entry, because you're talking such a menial amount of pips. There's absolutely no point trying to get into a trade for 17 pips because the risk is just going to be way too wide in terms of the stop. So for me, what I need to see is what price does once it runs through that. On the lower time frame, we could again, if we're lucky and price does come up a little bit, there is a small, and let me clean this up, guys, so I can make this really clear. Right, so remember where we are on the 4 hour, okay? We have a price objective at 122.05. This is what we're potentially looking for price to reach into, okay? So I'm going to drop down to a 15 because all of this is pretty much going to disappear on the 15-minute time frame. Because I want to zoom right in and show you where I might potentially be looking for a possible short. If price, this is quite likely. If price comes up, I'll just thin that up a little bit, into this small area up here, so we get something like the following, then I'd be quite happy to take something in this area, and I'll show you why this is more favorable. Because where it stands right now, price basically has, like I said, about 17 pips to hit this level, and we may get a push through that, you know, maybe 25 pips, 30 pips, right? But again, the stop is, you know, it kind of messes the risk up. But if we get a pop up higher first, then we've increased the range already before it runs through that level by, you know, another 15 or 20 pips. Yeah, so there's a nice 35 pip range in there. But like I said, if it comes up here, then we can basically place our stop just above this level here at 122.55, say, with an entry around about 122.38. So that's 17 to 20 pip stop. Yeah, so this for me makes more sense. And I am happy with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put go for a conservative entry at 122.35. Where does that put us? No, I'd want to see a little bit higher. I'll go for 40 just to clear those highs. So 122.40 is a short or potential short, with a 20 pip stop. And a target of, to start with, I'm just going to have to delete that for now. There we go. At 122 big figure. But again, need to see this run higher first and tag 122.40. I wouldn't want to take it here. I want to see it run higher first. Now, there's a couple of ways to do this. it is possible. Let me just zoom out so I can see price action a bit better. It is possible, um, like 16 pips. It is possible that you get a 30 pip run first before it runs low, because this is actually a really tight Asian range, to be fair. 13, yeah, I mean, this is really, really tight. So if you want, there's a couple of entries on this. You could either take an entry at 122.40 with a 20 pip stop, or you can have a secondary stop 10 pips higher, just to give yourself a little bit more room. And if you do this, then size accordingly, obviously. We'll say aggressive stop. We'll just call it non-aggressive stop, just to keep things simple. Aggressive stop. All this means, if you take the aggressive stop, it just means that you can get a little bit more risk on, in terms of leverage or whatever. But for me, 20, 30 pips, it's all the same thing, really. So that's roughly what it looks like. I'm going to kind of zoom back out a second. And that's what I'm going to be looking at for the euro. Give me 1 second. Because I want to take a snapshot of this so I can put it in the chat. And what I'll do, no, actually, let me just do this. This is the cool thing about Max, you can just take a little snapshot. Done. So I'll pop that into the chat or the signal room in a second. And we've got time, guys. It's only 5:30 GMT. So let's pop over to cable. Yeah, cable's a little bit trickier. And obviously, the first level is here. What I believe price would be reaching for. So this is just something to keep an eye on, because I don't normally trade this pair, guys. But I imagine similar sort of scenario. And we could just very easily run straight for that 40 pips. Hourly, yeah, you see, this is a bit messy for me. We've already had range expansion here, a bit of a messy consolidation, and more range expansion, messy consolidation. So for me, I think the cleaner trade is going to be in euros. So I'm kind of just going to leave this alone. But these levels here, 138.55, we'll say, is definitely something you keep an eye on today, while the dollar pops through that higher level. I've said this so many times on this. I've got absolutely nothing to say about this pair. It's in such a messy consolidation, man. It has been for forever. Look at the weekly. I mean, look at this. Sideways. I really, honestly, I can't work with this. A lot of people who range trade will say, yeah, this is perfect. It's in a channel, and nah, I'm not interested. I like to see movement. I like to see fluid movement. And there's so much more out there to be discussing and talking about. So, moving on. Again, this level I've had marked out for a while now on the USD CAD. About 140 to 150 pips. This could very easily happen today, to be honest. We've got crude oil inventories this afternoon, I believe. So one last pop up there. Um, first, hmm, just give me a second. I'm just having a look at something. Drop down to a 4 hour. Got about 40 to 60 pip range. A CAD. Look at the state of this range. Where's the Asian range? This can get whipsawy today, based on price, based on the news that's coming out. But nah, I mean this could spike right down. I'm gonna leave CAD, guys, for now. And what I'll do is I'll monitor it this afternoon. And if I see something of interest, I'll put it out there. But I'm expecting higher prices, obviously, as with the dollar. But again, not really sure whether or not we're going to get the move that I'm expecting. We may get a pop straight through this and back into the range. And if that happens, it's going to prevent CAD from going any higher, or should do anyway, at least. It doesn't necessarily mean it will, but it should do. So you're only talking about a 40 pip range, 40 to 60 pip range, which is enough. It's enough to make a trade. But what I'm trying to get at is it makes the trade too quick. It's too quick. It's like a scalping type of trade, and I try to put trades that we can map out and have time to think about, as opposed to, because I'm a scalper by nature. I do a lot of trading that nobody knows about, and nobody's going to be able to keep up with the type of trading that I do, because it requires an immense amount of focus and speed. Whereas this is different. We can plan this out. We have time to think about it. We can take our time, put our levels in, and we can watch price, unfold. Whereas with USD CAD, this is something that I would have to monitor, during the news run up. So maybe 10 minutes before the news comes out, see what price does, and wait for crude oil inventories as well, which we know can cause immense swings on the loonie. So I'll look at this closer to the time and we'll see. Aussie dollar. Goes without saying. I think you guys are getting used to this now. Old low. And let me just be really clear about something. Obviously, it's not enough to just mark out a low here and say, yep, well, price is going there. Because I could mark one here and say, well, why isn't it going there? Or why, I'm expecting price to go all the way down here. You know what I mean? For example, there's a reason that we mark off specific levels. There's a reason we mark off specific levels, because it's fulfilling a purpose. Once price hits that level, there's a reason it's hitting that level. It's hitting that level, to facilitate trade, for larger funds and larger companies, for stop rates, for fair value. There's loads of stuff. There's loads of reasons why price is going to these levels, but don't be fooled into believing that you can just put a line below a low, or a line above a high, and then that's it. That's all you need to do, and price is just going to go straight there. There's a lot, obviously, in between all of that. But again, we're very close to this range. We're a little bit of a higher low compared to where the dollar is, but I'm expecting this range to get tagged. It's literally 27 pips. It's nothing. The average daily ranges on the Aussie dollar are not as wide as the euro or cable, but there's enough in there, to make a decent scalp. But as a potential entry for this, because again, I do believe this is getting tagged today. If I remember, it's 77.60ish. Yeah. There we go, 77.60. So I do believe this is getting tagged today. So, as a potential entry, I'll just put these on so we can see where we are. Yeah, it could potentially be Wednesday low of the week on the Aussie dollar, but similar sort of entry. Let's go to the 15. I would probably 10 pips, man. I mean, this is quite slow as well sometimes, but you. Basically, the higher the day. I'm not marking anything special, guys. It's just literally the higher the day today. Just give me 1 second, guys. I just want to see. So, yeah. I'm marking out the whole consolidation. Just trying to figure out where the stop would be. So, yeah, similar situation, guys. Between, I'm gonna call it 78 big figure to 78.05. Okay, so we'll call it 77 big figure with about a 15 pip stop. You can get a 15 pip stop on this, but this is going to be an aggressive trade. Where's my price levels? So I would be looking for something like this today. Wow, come on, man. Okay, 78 big figure with a 15 pip stop. It's not going to let me do it, is it? Always shy of a few pips, micro pips. Okay, with 77.60. Perfect. We'll just drop down to the 15 again. Just kind of do it this way. Get rid of this. In fact, no, actually, I'm not going to get rid of that. I'll leave it on there. Just to clearly define what we're looking for. So again, something like this for the Aussie dollar. And I'll get rid of this for a second so I can put in entry. I'll just put it underneath. For now, it's fine. Put it this side, it's fine. There we go. So that's what I'm going to be looking for. The Aussie dollar. And then once these objectives are fulfilled, yeah, we can. I knew that was going to happen. Obviously, that's why I just zoom out a little bit. It's going to get a bit messy. Yeah, that's perfect. That is. All right, cool. So that's that. Let's take a look at the pound Japanese yen. I mean, I've been talking about this for so long now. The actual figure that I'm looking for is 146.90. I've been trying to find a nice spot to get into this, but as you can see on the 4 hour, we've been in this kind of tight range. If I go to the hourly, you'll see a little bit better. You see how messy this is. I need a push. I need a real strong push away from current levels, a little bit further, because we've got a nice little range to work with. almost 200 pips. So we need a bit of a push away from this, and we get a little retest into it, and then I can take a short. But for now, the only thing I can offer at the minute is, and I'm going to change that actually to the level it should be at 146.90. There we go. Perfect. So, yep, still on the cards for me this. And then obviously I'll monitor it as usual. And we take it from there. So for now, guys, I'm going to have to shoot off because I've got somewhere to be. Before I do, we've got the euro. So this is what we've mapped out for the euro today. And then the Aussie dollar, similar scenario. And I've got the snapshots of these, so I'll put them in the signal room. So that's the only two things that I'm going to be looking at today. Pound, there is room to tag these equal lows, which I firmly believe is going down there. But I just think for me personally, the cleaner trade is going to be in euro. And that's it. All right, guys. So I'll leave it at that. Have a good trading day. Keep your risk to a minimum. Be aware that there's news coming out today. So we've got the euro, 5 o'clock New York, 10 o'clock GMT, and then we've got the 1:30 GMT news this afternoon, which would be 8:30 in the morning New York, and then crude oil inventories as well, which let me just quickly check. I believe are after the dollar news. Excuse me. Just give me a second, I'll tell you now. Yeah, so we've got CAD news first at 1:30 GMT, 8:30 New York. Then we have 2:45 news GMT, 3 o'clock news GMT for both for dollar, and then we've got 3:30 GMT, which I think is like 11:30. Is that right? 11. So it'd be 4:30. 3:30. So it'd be 10:30 for you guys. Yeah, 10:30 New York for anybody that's in New York time for crude oil inventory. So just be a bit mindful of Canadian dollar. This is why I've opted not to put anything out there for USD CAD, because it's too unpredictable based on news drivers today, as opposed to if there was just CAD news coming out, nothing else, no crude oil inventories, then maybe we could have had something to work with. But I'm just going to kind of leave it alone for now. So yeah, be mindful of the news. And I'll catch up with you guys in the next live session, and obviously in the chat rooms and the signals and so on. So take care, guys. Have a great day, and I'll speak to you soon.